Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick. He's a natural resource analyst. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks very much for having me on.
We just heard the news here in British Columbia that Petronas is bailing out of its Pacific Northwest LNG project, citing low profits from natural gas and a glut on the world stage. Understandable for them to make that move?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the price of natural gas hasn't gone anywhere in months. If anything, we're going to have more natural gas supply, not less, because natural gas, even when you don't want it, is produced as a byproduct of, like, oil production. So, yeah, there's going to be more natural gas on the market. More is being shipped around the world as liquefied natural gas. So, like, those countries which used to really pay up for the imports of that, now they have a few places to choose from, and the prices have come down there, too. So I can see their hesitation, certainly. But I think the energy space as a whole looks good. I've been active in alternative energy, solar, and if you look at oil, I mean, we keep hearing all this news that, you know, things are supposedly very bad for oil. I know because I've retweeted many of those stories myself, where, like, you know, they can't keep to their agreements, and those countries that aren't held by the production limits are now cranking up production and all this stuff, and yet the price of oil is actually moving higher. When you see that kind of action in the face of bearish news, that tends to be the indication of something very bullish. So I like oil at these levels, I really do. Even though people say, oh, it should be $35. That's not what the price action is telling us. The price action is telling us things are actually going to move higher. So that looks good to me.
Well, China said their last quarter they grew 6.9%. Of course, a year ago, they also said, we predict we'll grow at 6.9%. So the numbers from China sometimes are a little hard to believe, but they still think that their economy is growing at a pretty good clip, and they are the big consumer of oil now.
Right, and they're not the only ones who think China is growing. The IMF recently raised its forecast on China for the year. And, of course, the proof is always in the price, right? Look at the price of copper. Look how that has just taken off lately. And the reason is Chinese demand. The Chinese can't get enough copper now. So even if you think that they're messing with their numbers on their economic statistics, the fact that they want so much copper tells you that actually things are humming along over there. And of course, if the Chinese economy is humming along, that is bullish for all sorts of materials, and materials should be bullish. I saw a fascinating statistic recently that the last time the U.S. dollar was this low, generally commodities were about 20% higher. So what's happened is, I mean, we've had switches around in the market and like stuff like that. We have seen weakness in the U.S. dollar recently. In fact, it's at a 14-month low. But we really haven't seen the lift in the commodity space that we might have thought we would see. Maybe it was delayed a little bit, and now we're going to see it. That's kind of what I'm hoping, though I'm not actually really betting on it. Not yet. Well, certainly I am long plenty of things in the commodity space, but I'd like to see some more action in there just to really believe it. But the action recently in the commodity space has actually been quite bullish. So finally, it takes the U.S. dollar falling to a 14-month low, but finally commodities are starting to look good.
Any particular ones?
Well, let's see. I've been riding gold rather cyclically, and actually gold and the U.S. dollar, we should probably talk about that, is that the Fed is currently embarking on a 2-day meeting that wraps up tomorrow and when I say tomorrow, I mean Wednesday. And so that will probably indicate a lot what's going on with the dollar and with gold. Now, my view is that the U.S. dollar tried to sell off on Tuesday, did not, and 14-month low and all that stuff. That kind of indicates that they've really beaten any hope out of the market, and there's no way for it to go lower at this point. And so all we need out of the Fed is a hint, a whiff of something that could be bullish for the U.S. dollar. Like right now, nobody has any rate hikes on the table for the rest of the year. Maybe the Fed could say, yes, we are going to have at least one and maybe two rate hikes this year. That would send the U.S. dollar careening higher. And since it's on the other end of the seesaw of pain, that would probably send gold lower. And right now, gold is actually testing overhead resistance. It's really trying to break through. So, my guess, and this is why I'm not putting on any new gold positions today, is we will see the U.S. dollar bounce and gold pull back. That would give me a nicer opportunity to enter gold in just a little bit. But I could be wrong. Maybe whatever the Fed says will actually be bearish for the dollar. And that will be the signal that gold has been looking for to springboard higher. So it's a very exciting space right now. Like I said, I'm happy with the bets I have now. I'm not adding any new ones. And I'm actually looking at like other things like lithium and graphite and cobalt. Those all look like places I want to play right now. Copper looks extraordinarily good. My copper stocks are doing very nicely, thank you. And of course, oil. Oil had a nice rally. Then yesterday, Tuesday, it just really began to yesterday, Monday, it actually began to pull back. People said, "Oh, that's it." Nope. Tuesday comes along, oil goes higher, oil stocks go higher. Not the oil services stocks. They're actually starting to look not so good. But the sector generally is looking good. So I think you can make some money in oil right now. You just have to be very selective. So, those are the things that I'm looking at. But you can find your own stuff too. Like I said, generally there are some real opportunities in the space, especially because all that optimism got beaten out for months. So some things look cheap right now.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after the break.
Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Lotus Ventures Inc. is a BC-based medical marijuana company poised to launch into the rapidly evolving cannabis sector. Lotus is in the final review stage of the Health Canada approvals to become a licensed producer, having arranged facility financing of up to $12 million, plus building permits for its prototype indoor production facility. Shares trade under the symbol J on the Canadian Securities Exchange. Visit our website at lotusventures.ca.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Sean Brodrick. Sean, going back to the oil patch, what's the rig count at? Has it gone up?
Well, last week it actually went down for the first time in a long time. The thing that's hurting the oil services company is, even though Halliburton had a great quarter, it really did. It said that it was starting to see that its customers were pulling in their horns. That was their phrase, actually, pulling in their horns. So that sent a ripple of fear through that industry. And now people are saying, well, maybe we won't get the big ramp up in business we were thinking about. So that's the thing that in the energy space, you might want to wait for the dust to settle and then pick up some bargains. I don't think that the oil bull in the U.S. is done at all. Not at all, especially with prices moving higher like this. Maybe they were pulling in their horns when Halliburton was actually putting its earnings report together. But if we have U.S. oil go over $50 and stay there a bit, let me tell you, there are plenty of oil producers that can make money at 50. They can make a lot of money at 50. maybe not as much as they'd like to make it 60 or 70 or 80, but enough to really keep them in the green, and they have a lot of debt to pay off. And so keep your eye on the oil price, because if it stays, higher for longer, if we don't see a turnaround like so many people have predicted, then we are going to start to see those oil services companies go back to work at just when they sold off on the news from Halliburton. That means bargain hunting time for me, but I wouldn't do it immediately. Wait for the dust to settle a bit, and then you can pick up the ones you want.
Again, you said it's very selective. You just can't go and say, give me the oil ETF.
Well, I wouldn't, but I mean, if you, the great thing about the U.S. market is, we have ETFs for like everything, right? We even have selective ETFs within the energy sector as a whole. So you can target industries. One that's been doing very well is, the one for the U.S., refiners. It is actually called crack, C-R-A-K. And it's been doing well because the crack spreads for the refiners, in other words, the difference between what they actually pay for their inputs and what they can charge for their outputs, that's gotten nice and wide. And so that means the refiners are doing very well. Now, we have seen the price of oil go higher, but what's been happening? We've started to see prices come up a little bit. If the refiners can negotiate this perilous path successfully, they should continue to do okay, especially considering how much they're exporting now. They're exporting more oil and more oil products than ever before. It's fantastic. So there are some really good areas that I think you can look at. Would I buy the XLE? Probably not. But I think that there are whole industries within the oil sector that you can buy, and I think that there are lots of good-looking stocks within the sector.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain's Brunswick property is located in the Rideout Shear Zone in Ontario. With grab samples running as high as 32 grams per ton gold, a drill program will commence this spring to test the numerous targets located by recent groundwork. For more information, visit our website, rmroyalty.com.
Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage, HowStreet.com. Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, although marijuana remains illegal in the U.S. federally, some states, many states have now legalized it. What's that doing to the marijuana space?
Well, this is one place where Canada has the U.S. beat, hands down, I have to tell you. Because the best performing stocks in my portfolios, aside from the cobalt stocks, nothing's touching those things right now, but the best performing stocks are those marijuana growers that are in Canada. They're really heating up. They're looking nice. And so that is good. Now, we can actually purchase those here in the U.S., and certainly we do. There are beaten down stocks down in the U.S., because everybody's afraid of U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. And my friends in Canada may not know about this guy. He looks like a rogue Keebler elf. He's small, but he has a mean streak a mile wide. They always talk about how genteel he is in the Senate. Yeah, genteel for a grifter, maybe. But here's the thing. He hates marijuana with a passion. He absolutely does. And he has a report coming out next week from the Department of Justice, which he has led, which is on crime in America. And you can bet he has worked in some language there talking about how smoking the evil marijuana weed is driving up crime. Now, study after study after study shows that is not the case. But then if you pay for a study, you can get it to say pretty much anything you want. And I can bet what Jeff Sessions will have in those reports he has paid for. So, this has the marijuana industry kind of nervous. What will he actually do with that? What can he actually accomplish? Now, there's actually a hodgepodge of stuff in here. One is that while Jeff Sessions may hate marijuana, more and more states actually like marijuana. It's a good source of tax revenue for them. They are seeing what's going on in places like Colorado and Nevada that are just reaping millions and millions and millions of dollars in tax revenue that they didn't have otherwise, healing their budget problems. Something that is interesting is that in the last budget cycle, more U.S. states were not able to balance their budgets than were able to balance their budgets. So what does that happen? Many of them have these laws that they have to balance their budgets, which means cut. They cut stuff even if people want it. So if they legalize marijuana and get that tax revenue, maybe they won't have to cut so much. Maybe it'll actually work out for them. And so I think that Jeff Sessions, if he tries to institute any draconian things using his new report as a cudgel, I think he's going to get some serious pushback, not only from the states, but from leading members of the U.S. Senate and Congress, from the NFL Players Association, which is really pushing this issue, and from the U.S. Veterans Association, which is definitely banging the table about the fact that there are veterans that need help from marijuana that can't get it right now. So he can try and do something, and that's what has the industry scared right now, but I don't think he'll be able to accomplish much. Also, there is the fact that lately he seems on the outs with President Trump, who has been wondering aloud why Jeff Sessions hasn't resigned. Now, Jeff Sessions apparently never will resign. He's the kind of guy who can't take a hint. But if Trump pushes him out, then I think that could lift a weight off the industry. Now, he could be replaced with someone who is just as bad. Let's never kid ourselves on that score. We don't know who would actually replace him. But on the other hand, he does seem to have a singular grudge against the industry. So if he's out of the way, then a lot of things that are held up in Washington, D.C. could really move forward. Let me just swing back to Canada at this point. Now, I know there are talks of actual delays of rolling out the new laws which they need in Canada in order to sell marijuana recreationally, legally. And that might happen, especially on the provincial level. You know, there are some places that just aren't ready for it and all that stuff. But the investment climate is just so much better. You can actually get funding, you can get bank loans, you can, do so many things up there that you can't do in the U.S. And this makes those stocks up in Canada much more attractive to me as a U.S. investor. Now, I know one thing that the companies up in Canada are doing right now with all that money that they've made from selling legal marijuana is they're going down in the U.S. and they are snapping up small companies that they see as undervalued. So it's kind of a virtuous circle there, money flowing across the border like both directions. And so I expect we'll see more of that. When you get down to it, at the end of the day, I am investing in cannabis stocks on the U.S. side of the border and on the Canadian side of the border, because I think there are worthy investment vehicles on both sides. It's true some are overvalued. There is no doubt about that. But there are also some that are showing the kind of revenue growth that you want, that since they have that enormous revenue growth and they have the potential for more, then yeah, you can buy them now because they will probably do very well. And so those are the kind of stocks that I'm looking for.
Well, I know provinces like Manitoba have asked for more time to put together their plan to sell pot. I think the federal Liberals have told them that was in our election campaign. You knew we were going to legalize it. You have the deadline. We'd appreciate it if you would work towards that deadline. So many governments feel you can just delay everything forever.
Well, oftentimes, and I'm sure many of us speaking as individuals feel this, governments tend to get in the way of whatever you want to do, don't they? So, it's not any big surprise there. But yeah, I think that there's some real potential, and especially, there are some parts of the industry that haven't really been explored yet. You'll see small companies doing stuff that everybody needs, but they're still private companies. They haven't gone public. So just the whole growth potential is just enormous, and I find it quite exciting.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Natural Resource Analyst for EdelsonInstitute.com. Check out his websites, Red Hot Resource Millionaire and Marijuana Millionaire. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Any questions for the show or our guests can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.